For slavery, you want to work your way back up on the ramp from C3 to C2 to C1. As you all can see, we're now going down and back into time. It's best to use the restroom when you exit off the elevator because the restrooms are only available at the beginning and at the end of the lower levels. You can take photos anywhere in the museum except Emmett Till Memorial, and that's because the casket is original. It's a family's request of no photos. Once you reach back up to the concourse level, visit the waterfall. It's called the Contemplative Core. It will put peace back in your spirit, man, after being down here on the lower levels. You all will be exiting out this door. To your right through the glass doors are the restrooms. To your left is where you'll be starting. You're now entering back into the 1400s. All right.
Was kidnapped and enslaved at age 11 and taken to the Caribbean and the Americas. Equiano endured the horrific experience of New World enslavement. The sale of enslaved Africans and the profits made from their labor developed European nations and New World colonies. Men such as Henry Lawrence transformed their profits into position and power. Lawrence sold thousands of enslaved Africans in the 1750s. He gained influence as one of the wealthiest colonists and later became a prominent member of the Continental Congress. The wealth generated by slavery was enormous for nations as well. By 1833, when Great Britain abolished slavery, the country paid out roughly in history. The Atlantic world, the connection of 4 continents that shape the rim of the Atlantic Ocean, came into being based on the labor and forced movement of enslaved Africans. Atlantic world slavery, also considered New World slavery, exploited human lives to build wealth and power for nation-states, colonies, institutions, and individuals. It also commercialized and racialized slavery. Between 1501 and 1800, Caribbean and the Americas. Equiano endured the horrific experience of New World enslavement. In his autobiography, he recalled, "In a little time after, amongst the poor chained men, I found some of my own nation, which in a small degree gave ease to my mind." The church, governments, and companies invested in the business of slavery. The sale of enslaved Africans and the profits made from their labor developed European nations and New World colonies. Men such as Henry Lawrence, a partner in one of the largest slave trading houses in colonial North America, transformed their profits into position and power. Lawrence sold thousands of enslaved Africans in the 1750s. He gained influence as one of the wealthiest colonists and later became a prominent member of the Continental Congress. The wealth generated by slavery was enormous for nations as well. By 1833, when Great Britain abolished slavery, the country paid out roughly $2.4 billion in today's currency to compensate British slave owners. The transatlantic slave trade was built on profit and human suffering. Despite the harsh reality of the inhumanity of enslavement, enslaved people, forcibly dispersed throughout the Atlantic world, created something more. New connections, new cultures, and a rich African diaspora. The transatlantic slave trade was the largest forced migration in human history. The Atlantic world, the connection of 4 continents.
The cloth which were on our bodies and threw them into the water. Then they took chains and two together. We in the vessel, young and old, were 700 whom the white man had bought, and to take many and throw them into the water.
Ourselves at last taken away. Death was more preferable than life, and a plan was concerted amongst us that we might burn and blow up the ship and to perish altogether in the flames. Being in this dreadful captivity and horrible slavery, without any hope of deliverance, beholding the most dreadful scene.
I have known them to gratify their brutal
hereditary and lifelong. This separated indentured instrumental to the founding of the United States. When Africans arrived in colonial North America, they encountered different environments and buried cultivated the land, building profitable plantations in port cities. Forced together, Africans, including the Akan, Igbo, Mende, and Bambara, contributed to the new regional cultures throughout colonial North America. While all the colonies held enslaved people, the systems of slavery varied. In most instances, on large plantations, enslaved people made up the black majority. This enabled them to maintain cultural practices and create new American cultures. In large port cities like Charleston, New Amsterdam, and Philadelphia, enslaved men, women, and children often worked in a variety of trades, as domestics, craftsmen, dock workers, and local vendors. In bustling cities, free and enslaved Africans had more opportunities to meet, build relationships, and share information. On small, rural farms, enslaved people often formed close relationships with American Indians and European indentured servants. They labored, lived, and rebelled together. The dependency on slave labor spread across North America, from Dutch New Amsterdam to the British colonies, as well as in French Louisiana and Spanish Florida. With the reliance on enslaved populations, new laws defined who was enslaved and who was free. By 1750, the system of slavery was racialized and had become more uniform. The law based slavery on African descent and made it hereditary and lifelong. This separated indentured Europeans and enslaved Africans. It created whiteness, and Africans became black in colonial North America. Thing of the United States. And varying systems of slavery. From rocky coastlines to dense swamplands, massive forests, and expansive coastal plains, enslaved Africans learned the terrain. They cleared and cultivated the land, building profitable plantations in port cities. Forced together, Africans, including the Akan, Igbo, Mende, Bambara, contributed to the new regional cultures throughout colonial North America. While all the colonies held enslaved people, the systems of slavery varied. In most instances, the condition of slavery was not yet defined. In some instances, a few Africans in America had limited degrees of freedom. On large plantations, enslaved people made up a black majority. This enabled them to maintain cultural practices and create new American cultures. In large port cities like Charleston, New Amsterdam, and Philadelphia, enslaved men, women, and children often worked in a variety of trades, as domestics, craftsmen, and rebelled together. The dependency on slave labor spread across North America, from Dutch New Amsterdam to the British colonies, as well as in French Louisiana. The system of slavery was racialized and become more uniform.